Take a day. Welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Jay, and this is Homeschool Your Kids podcast. Today we have with us Dr. Mary Grace.
My name is Mary Grace Stewart. I am the founder of a program called Ideal for Gifted. It's really about an education that fits students who otherwise don't have something that fits them, especially twice exceptional kids. That is, if they have a learning difficulty and they're really bright, there really isn't a system that knows how to do that. Juggling from both ends of the possibility spectrum is tricky, but I've been doing this for a very long time.
And
And I
that's what I was
figured
going to
out.
ask. Walk us on through it. How did we get here? How did we get to Ideal?
Well, I started in 1978. Were you born by then?
I was not quite here yet. Not even a thought, I don't believe. I was 1984. Oh.
Okay. So maybe you were one of my students. Who knows? Uh, really, what happened was 2020 hit. And in April, at that time, I was parent liaison for the Massachusetts Association for Gifted Education. They call it MAGE. In one 3-day period in mid-April, I got 17 families contacting me, crying, hysterical, angry, and it was all about what their kids were not getting in the way of an education. And they hadn't been home, they hadn't been in their kids' classroom before. And now everybody's home and they're looking over their shoulder and they're really disappointed. Whenever a twice exceptional or a very bright child is not getting what they need, that's what the parent liaison's for, to try to help the family. It was so severe because 17 families hadn't called us, I don't think, in all the years we'd been in business. And to have them
What
all
grade
come
level
in
is this?
3 days, we were totally blown out of the water. So I was a little bit panicky and I said, well, what do you need? How can I help? I said, well, tell you what, how about if we do some kind of a pilot thing? And we did. We did 6 weeks, I think it was. And I had been teaching for millennia. So I just used stuff that I had that I had used in the past, but I had never done anything online, and everybody was online. So we were making it up as we went along, but it went well because we had 24 families ask if we could do a summer program. So I said, well, I can't do it by myself. I'll have to hire somebody, and that means you're going to have to pay something. And of the 24 families, 18 of them signed on. The others, mainly, it was a timing issue. And we went for a full month. And then near the end of that month, several families said, couldn't you do this full time? And I basically said, no. No. Oh, please, please, please. So I asked the woman who was with me in the summer, what do you think? And she was ready and she said, I'm on board. She had 20 years experience. I had well over 30 years experience. So there's the two of us every night talking to each other. What are we going to do tomorrow? I don't know. Well, what about this kid? What about that kid? And we were truly flying the airplane while we were building it. And we warned the parents that it was not, we don't have like a scope and sequence, but they hung in. And then I thought, well, everything's going to get better. I didn't really think there would be a year two. Well, we're going into year 7.
Nice.
And what I've discovered is for populations that there's only a few of, it's hard to find people you relate to and who kind of get you, particularly if they think you're nerdy or weird or, there's TV shows about kids on the spectrum and the things that they blurt out. But to us, that's just like, well, yeah, so what? And a whole lot of the behaviors that people usually associate with the twice exceptional and the gifted kids don't happen because they're home and there isn't the same kind of dynamic. On the other hand, we didn't want them to become hermits, you know. So we said we're going to stop this like at 3 o'clock because these kids have got to get out into the world. And so we did that. But along the way, the internet is kind of an amazing thing. We've had a student from Italy, a student from England, a student from Bermuda, a student from New Zealand who gets up at like 5:30 in the morning on the
Oh,
next day
wow.
to do the afternoon class. We got one in Ecuador right now. They've been in Canada and China. There's these little one-offs. And I said, we need to make this a real thing. So at the end of the first year, we did our nonprofit paper. It took almost a year, but I had a very, very kind pro bono attorney who just kept walking us through the steps. And ever since then, it's like taken on a life of its own. And we have a little team of 4 women who work incessantly. And now the schedule has widened because there are people in other time zones. So for our little guy out in San Francisco, he doesn't want to take class at 5:45 in the morning, but he doesn't need to anymore. He can start later in the day because what we did was we took whatever was the morning classes and put them later in the afternoon, and then the middle stayed the middle. That's where we are now. I am working on a book very, very slowly because the topic is that, you know, I started teaching in 1978. I've been in 9 school districts in 3 different states. My mother was a teacher. My dad was a teacher. I've seen a lot and heard a lot. And the gist of it is, I remember one school I worked at had a humongous banner that said, students first. But they were in a state that shall remain nameless. And the state said, your
Just
job,
kidding.
your job is based, your job and your evaluation and your continued employment is based on the scores from the state test. So what was really first? The state test. Did that resonate with students? No. Did that pique their interest? No. Were they in their strength area? Probably not. Did they learn how to take tests? Yep. But when a girl from Boston at a conference I was at stood up at the end of the conference and said, I am 19 years old. I went through the Boston school system. When the guidance counselor said, what are you going to write about for your college essay? She said, what's an essay?
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. And she spent another year after high school learning things that she definitely should have learned in public school. She did it like in night school program, preparing for college.
Mm.
So Boston has some very good schools, some very rigorous schools, but what they forget is, especially in the era of the internet. Now, back when I went to school, we didn't,
Right.
right? We had them books and papers and stuff. And if you got it wrong, you couldn't cut and paste. You had to start over. What does what does it mean to be a human in an era of AI? What's indigenously human? And within that, what is learning for a human? And part of the answer is that a lot of what we created in the time of the Industrial Revolution, when what we were trying to make was kids who were compliant and would be factory workers, is no longer
Hmm.
even vaguely a fit. So we're working with this really two out in left field kind of populations for which even the parents who don't see their kids in school can tell they're not learning. This isn't working. Something's drastically wrong. And then they make a phone call or send an email. I don't know if my kid is this or this, but they used to love learning and now, they lie on the floor when it's time to go to school.
Hmm.
So the idea is that yes, you have things that you want to make sure they know, but you have to measure the human. It's not unlike buying clothes. You know, you like something, you try it on. If you like it and it fits, you buy it. Well, guess what? If you don't like it and it doesn't fit, the kids are not buying it.
Mhm.
And so we've tried to completely what I call pull the sleeve inside out and say, we have to first find all about this kid and then give them whatever they need next. And if they're 6 years old and they're ready for algebra, okay. I mean, that doesn't happen very often, but I do have a fourth grader who this year, quiet boy, quiet boy. And his mom said that this is the first time she's actually heard him, that he's having conversations with other people in the family. Well, he started out as a fourth grader, and he and his parents believed he should start with fourth grade math. In 1 year, he completed all the way through the grades to the end of Algebra 1.
Oh, wow. That's like ninth grade.
Yeah. And so people say, oh, well, you're just pushing them. No, we are running to keep up. Um,
Hmm.
and yet, in English language arts, he couldn't write a paragraph to save his life, right? So kids are very asynchronous in what they know and what they're ready for, and in the way their brain works and what interests them and their emotions, their sensitivity to this, that, or the other thing. So teachers who have taught for a long time will say, you've got to get to know the kids. And if you don't build relationships with the kids and get to know more about them and adjust things to them, it's not going to work. But it's hard. The thing is, since about maybe 1910, you probably heard of Montessori schools. Maria Montessori said, hey, this whole school thing doesn't fit the kids. A long time ago. And so she started making stuff that she thought, well, this would be fun and this would fit the kid and this would pique their interest. And she created a whole form of schooling. And my dad was born in 1911, and he was a teacher in a two-room schoolhouse. And he said we were told we needed to teach him to read, write, and cipher. And then they's done. We're still teaching them to read, write, and cipher and memorize. There are machines that do that now. So, what is indigenously human? What is unique to that particular child or young person? What are their interests? What are their strengths? Use their strengths to pull on their weaknesses. It's just kind of like common sense, but it's not so common because we've gotten so institutionalized. This is a very long answer to your short question. The bottom line is that because we started in the middle of a disaster, we had to reinvent the wheel. And we had the materials because of our years of experience. What we didn't have was anything other than our own sense of morals, ethics, and beliefs about education to guide us. And by golly, seems to be working.
Nice. What age group do you work with?
There are a lot of programs, I guess, for secondary school kids, but they can start at 4.5.
Oh.
Basically, they need to be well potty trained and able to sit at a computer for about 20 minutes at a time. And they don't actually have to sit. They could stand up. We've had a couple kids with a little trampoline. They're bouncing. You know, those ADHD kids, woohoo, let's rock it, man. It doesn't matter. What matters is that they're engaged and they're growing and they're getting the educational nourishment that they need, no matter what flavor or type it is. So we have like the regular subjects, math, science, English language arts. We've got Spanish and Latin. We've got a thing called soft skills, which is the AI type stuff, stuff that you're going to need, that's really human. And we got an art class, and we've got a class that revolves around music. You can't synchronize people all playing music together easily. And when we sing happy birthday to each other, it's it's always a mess, but we do it anyway. So the kids are 4.5 to 14. Basically, once you're through your middle school years, then there are other options available. They fall under homeschooling. And more and more and more and more, as I'm sure you know, people are homeschooling because regular school fitting dit, it just doesn't. First article I wrote was about shoe stores. What? You're an educator? You're writing about? Yeah. Because when you go to a shoe store, one that has real people in it, they ask you which ones you like. They measure a couple of different ways. They go away and come back with choice.
Choice.
Mm-hmm.
That's the big word here. And
Big choice.
it should be a free-for-all choice. Especially when you see something isn't working. Like you said, you see something isn't working, you want to make a change. That should be afforded to everyone.
Yep.
I don't think it should be too much to talk about. Like, hey, this isn't working, my child isn't happy, and they need something else. Boom. Okay, well, find them something else. Um,
Well, if you're homeschooling, you can do that. But if you're trying to fit a complicated tree shape into a square hole, it doesn't work real well. I'm sorry, I shouldn't. I know that educators work super, super hard. I was among them for many, many years.
You and me both.
And the caring that educators have for their students is profound.
Indeed.
But the box that the educator is in and their need for an income is a part of the whole scenario.
And the load. You gotta think like small class sizes would be way more efficient for school teachers if it was something that like was doable.
Mm-hmm.
I had over 140 students on my roster my last year teaching. You think I mean, I definitely had a relationship with all of them, but do you think that I knew all of them personally? Do you think I could teach all of them, like to them, like to, what worked for them? And
Mm-hmm.
these were seniors, so it wasn't definitely, but the workload is unrealistic for teachers.
Absolutely.
It's like just to sum it up, in a public school classroom, the workload is unrealistic. There's no way to efficiently handle what is being asked of them.
Yeah, I had one class. This is just one block of time every day, an English class that had 40 students in it. And they were fifth graders. And some of them were sitting on the heat register. There weren't enough books. And this was a good school. But these were kids that didn't fit. And so I said, I felt like the Statue of Liberty, give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to learn something. Um, but it worked because there are systems that can help. And honestly, I I mean, kids toddle on down the hall for chorus or I don't know, speech lessons or they don't do some things by age. If you're a great athlete and you're in ninth grade, you're in the varsity team, even though it's supposed to only be for 10th graders and up, right? Uh,
Hmm.
if you're if there's a special chorus, there's the everybody can sing chorus, and then there's the have to audition chorus. Do they do that by age? No. So you can take every subject, kind of like you would in a middle school or high school, but let the kids go to the room where the thing is happening that is what they're ready for next. And if that means a little kid in with big kids, teach
Right.
them manners. If it means a big kid in with little kids, teach the little kids respect. You know, uh, when you get out, like right now, let's see, you're young enough to be my daughter, and yet you've taught seniors. So we are colleagues. It doesn't matter how old I am. Well, sort of does. I need more sleep than I used to. Uh, anyway, age only seems to get us categorized when we're vulnerable. You know, these are children. We're the grown-ups. We should bear the burden of doing the fitting. We need to be the tailors, not the kids.
Okay.
Back when my dad was first teaching, he said anybody that was in any way, shape, or form not fitting the mold just didn't go to school and nobody cared.
Mm.
Thomas Edison is a funny, kind of a funny story. He got thrown out of school at about seventh or eighth grade, and he was so annoying that his mom didn't want him at home. So she said, just go out to the barn. Well, guess what was in the barn? All kinds of weird stuff, junk was in the barn. Thomas Edison was left in the barn. Sometimes you just have to let go and let them find their way. And
Yes,
I think
ma'am.
homeschoolers are the only ones doing that right now. Now, not everybody's an educator, and that's kind of the niche that we fill is we get it. You know, I'm not a rocket scientist. I'm not a surgeon. I'm not a nurse. I'm not a whole lot of things. So tell you what, you patch up my kids when they have bloody knees, and I'll teach them from wherever they're at the subjects that they need. Does everybody need to read, write, and cipher? Yeah, but is that all there is? No.
Right. Yeah. And the kids, so you are working with the twice exceptional. Those are often the ones that are forgotten about in the classroom because they don't make a big fuss. They get their work done and then they just sit there quietly.
Well, it's interesting you would say that because the research shows, and my experience backs that up, and it's a humongous generalization, but we have more boys than girls. And I believe the reason for that is that the boys tend to go try to get something, like they're up out of their seat. And we hear a lot of parents saying stuff like, well, they say that he's ADHD, but he's not like that at home. Or they say that he's defiant, but he's not like that at home. Well, learning is like being hungry. They're hungry. And if you're hungry, you're going to get up and go to the fridge, or you're going to go out and find what's happening. They're just trying to find the cognitive nourishment that they need. I had one girl. Now, this is a girl who did both algebra and geometry in 1 year when she was 12. Absolutely standard algebra and geometry textbooks. Just she got it and she moved on. And we ran to keep up. She also, when she couldn't figure something out in algebra at one time, actually made her own algorithm. And the teacher was like, I don't think that's right. But then the teacher that night kind of worked it through and went, oh my God, she's invented a new algorithm for this process. Okay, so this kid then matriculates out and is very strong in the arts. So she goes to a magnet school for the arts. In her English class, they were doing compound words. Okay. But the compound word examples, now picture this kid, and she's on the autism spectrum also. The compound words are butterfly and hot dog. And she's just having a meltdown.
Mm-hmm.
So her mom calls me and I teach her how to make things more satisfying for herself. Basically, I teach her what a teacher can get from a grad course or a professional development class. I said, look, how about you answer or give your examples with things like afterlife or facelift? There's nothing that says that a concept that's given to you can't be responded to in a more meaningful way if you understand the underlying concept and kind of have to ignore the very, very simplistic examples. That was huge for her. But, should a student have to do that? Shouldn't it have been given to her at the level she was ready for? The school did let her go into Algebra 2, but in English, they didn't ask, they didn't check.
Hmm.
She could have written novels like Butterfly and Hot Dog, and has a she has an IEP, and she's got a defiance thing. One of the reasons she was with us was because she threw a chair at her science teacher and hit him. Do you think she
So,
ever even got upset with us? Not once. But she had
the
an emotional dysregulation. Um,
is
dis-
your program a school or is it supplementing school?
yes, both.
Both. Okay.
Um, it can be taken full time,
Okay.
school replacement for homeschoolers, or for somebody that just is fed up with the system, and then we help them um, with the systems that their districts and states have for putting this as their homeschooling options and filling in forms and things like that. Most states have pretty good associations that will help with that and give templates and examples of letters that can be written. There's an organization that I don't know if it's really pronounced this way, but I pronounce it HASELDA, Homeschooling
Oh, legal defense?
Legal. Yeah, that.
Oh,
H,
HSLDA.
yeah, that one.
Yeah, that one.
And they have on their website the laws for every state. And
Mm-hmm.
because we're all over the place, we can't, I have no idea what New Zealand and Ecuador and Italy require,
Mm-hmm.
but there's information. And then, it's often written in what you might call education ease, and we can help, interpret that. Oh, what that means is they need a report card. Oh, or yeah, the pictures of your kids' work. Yeah. And Massachusetts is where I'm located, but we've had teachers from California, Wisconsin, Nevada, Washington State, Florida, and the teachers that haven't stayed for two reasons. One, they need benefits, and we're too small to provide them. And
Okay.
two, it is really hard work. People are like, oh, you work with those smart kids. You must be having lots of fun. Having six wild stallions pulling your wagon. Really? But once again, there are strategies, and you know, and I was very, very fortunate because I've been in education for so long that when something interesting came along, I got some more of that. So learn differentiation from Carol Ann Tomlinson, learn school-wide enrichment model from the guy that wrote it, learn, all these different things because I'm curious. And I'm like, oh, that sounds interesting. That's what got me
Right.
into the mess in the first place. In 1980, I think it was, I realized, oh, crumb, I got to get my master's or I'm going to lose my teaching. So I just started taking some education courses that sounded cool. And the first one was about creativity and the brain. I was like, ooh. And then, yeah. And then what got me into it also was my first child. I can picture it like it was just yesterday, and it's actually about 35 years ago.
Oh,
She couldn't yet walk, but she could crawl. And we have a big bookcase, and we put the heavy books on the bottom because we don't want the bookcase to fall over, right? She pulls out the Webster's dictionary that's about 3 inches thick. And it's got that kind of like rice paper um, pages. And she's doing this. And she's looking and she's slapping it and yelling at us. Oh, we are in so much trouble. Because I knew that was not normal. I'd been teaching for about 13 years at that point. And so it was just trying to figure out what the hoo-ha we were going to do with her to start.
what did y'all do with that?
Well, I went and sought out college courses and it ended up with another degree. And I happened to live less than an hour from the University of Connecticut. And one of the biggest, most, he's famous, but he's like just a guy off the street that might sweep your sidewalk. Um, seriously, um, happened to be a professor there because I was looking for what do you do when your child has sort of a blessing and a curse? She's not going to fit in. How do I keep her from being unhappy? What kind of education does she need? And we ended up moving to the rigorous um, school district within an hour drive of my husband's work. And we also said to her when she got a little bit older, honey, school is for fun. You're actually going to learn things like on the weekends and during vacation time. Don't worry. And so at 11 was when she started going like away from home to summer programs. And they were mainly about international complicated things. And she became concerned about national relations with other countries. And she was taking clarinet at the time. And she found out that there was a teacher whose wife taught Russian. Kind of like you'd get piano lessons, but she taught Russian lessons. So the lady started coming to our house and was coming to our house for 3 years, and my daughter learned Russian. And she became interested in Slavic politics. And she became an attorney for
Oh,
international.
wow.
Now, debate club and mock trial were her best classes. They weren't classes, they were clubs. There was no grade. But if you look at, I mean, she could have done a lot of different things. She was very good at math. She has a voice that will, rock the windows. Whoa, big, powerful voice. But she ended up going into the thing that she was interested in.
Nice.
So, and the other kiddo, same thing. Started doing computer at age 3, had to crawl up on the chair, and we were not sure this was a good idea. Systems programmer and analyst for Microsoft.
It was a good idea.
It was a good idea. There's a guy by the name of Joseph Campbell. I'm not sure he's still alive, actually. The American philosopher, and he has this phrase, follow your bliss. And what I say to parents and teachers is follow their bliss. Find out what is blissful and use that as the container. And, like you said, choice. There's no reason why you have to say, well, boys and girls, we are all going to read Dick and Jane. Or you're in 10th grade, we are all going to read Beowulf. Bea who? What bay? There's a wolf in the bay? No. But what those things, concept wise, what they were trying to get across, there are millions of books out there that could have done the same thing.
Yep.
And if the teacher had only been allowed, and I mean allowed, to pick, say, a half dozen of them, and they're all talking about the same ideas, they're all learning the same structures, the same language stuff that's in there. Why not? What the heck difference does it make? You're a teacher. You got there. You must like to read or able to read. Um, you know, so that's what I did. When my elder daughter had to read Ayn Rand's Anthem, it's a big, thick thing in ninth grade. Like ninth grade girls really, really don't care about the content of that book at all. But I said, well, find a way to reward yourself. If you're going to have to do something hard that you don't like, man, did we go through the Oreos. She gave herself 3 Oreos per chapter. This is a big book. Anyway, it's another trick of the trade. If you have to do something
Indeed.
hard, reward yourself when you do
Reward yourself. I live by that. I
it.
do. Yes.
We do
After
a
each
thing.
expo, I get
Yeah.
some good
Yeah,
food.
we're going to do that. I'm so
Yes.
psyched. How do you get
Yes.
around? You're all over the place.
We're in an RV, a classic model RV.
Wow.
It's a 1991 RV, but that's how we roll around towns. We're in Maryland right now,
I've got a
and
student. Actually, I've got 2 students in Maryland.
in Maryland, yeah. So we're excited about this weekend. We're gonna explore some more later into tomorrow. Then we're heading up to New York before we go to Connecticut's expo.
Well,
So
I'm going to see you in Connecticut.
Connecticut, I know, I know.
So, how does that work? Does everybody come into the RV?
Who?
No. You living in the
No.
RV, and
Yeah, we're
you're
in the
at
RV.
a place where there's like a big room.
Yeah, it's at the hub. The Connecticut one is at the hub, Connecticut. It's a micro school.
Ah,
Um, so you'll get to explore their space. And that's what we're hosting at there. Here, the Maryland one is at a community center. So it differs in each state.
yeah.
But
I was thinking community centers would be great.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, at one time I thought about how could we do this? This was before the internet, actually. And I thought about, well, there's like a library mobile. Maybe we could have like a enrichment mobile.
That would be cool. I just did an interview with a lady who her company's called Dragonfly Dreams, and she converted a bus into a dream space. Like she encourages our youth to dream, and she has created a space where they can come and create
Mm,
and learn and just dive into their passions. So,
I like her.
I know, right? I know, me too. So that would be cool. Like, if that's something you've
Well,
thought about, then it may need to come on about.
well, it's a little tricky to get to Ecuador and New Zealand.
Yeah, no, you can't drive there. So,
Even daily going to San Francisco might be kind of a trick.
yeah, no, you have to make a lot of stops along the way. A lot of
My
stops.
husband does love to drive,
Really? See, I need
though.
one of those because I don't have one.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I know. Me too. Well, okay, so before I let you go, two more questions. One,
Sure.
how do you make sure that Mary Grace is taken care of? How do you self-care with all that you do, with all that you have created? What do you do to pour into yourself?
Well, I don't know if I can say this in 3 minutes, but um, about 15 years ago, I had breast cancer.
Mm.
And I spent a year that I don't remember being sick. I just,
Mm.
yeah, chemo, surgery, lots of things didn't go right. And when I survived that,
There's
I said to myself, what's the best use of me? And that's when I started to build the answer to your question, which is I do what I love. And guess what that is?
teach for that these go in.
Yep. And I do it till I'm tired. And then I stop and I go for a walk, or I sit out on the back porch, or I watch old reruns of Perry Mason.
That's my mama's show. She used to watch that. Yes.
Yeah. So I am, because of that very traumatic year, I am aware that I am limited, that life is limited, that if something doesn't fit, doesn't feel good, if it pushes me beyond uh, such that I'm panicking or anxious or freaking out in some way, I shouldn't do that. Which is one of the reasons why there's four of us instead of just two of us, because
Nice.
I can't be all things to all people all the time.
Yes, ma'am.
So you get help. You get help with like-minded folks,
Yeah.
such as yourself, which is why I was really excited to do this podcast. I was like,
Oh,
oh,
nice.
friend.
Right? I know. You find each other. It's easy. Like I
Yeah,
tell people, I love it.
yeah,
So
yep.
self-care is essential to you because you learned
The hard way,
the hard way.
which is how my dad always said. It was sad, but that was really the only way I ever learned anything.
I just saw a thing this morning that said, my therapist asked, how do I learn? And I said the hard way. It was like, therapist, how do you learn? How do you learn best? Me, the hard way. Like,
I will try everything that I want to try before I pay attention to somebody who told me it wouldn't work.
oh yeah, no, because you tell me that's
And
like
no.
Oh yeah, no, that's definitely a go button for me. Like, oh, what? Oh, I can't do this? Oh, okay. Let me show you.
High school art teacher says, I'm taking a jewelry class. We're doing brass, we're doing copper, we'll even try a little silver. And I said, what about gold? And she says, oh, you can't do gold. Really?
Well,
Got myself a little gold. Need a
exactly.
ring.
Exactly. So, if our listeners didn't hear anything else during this conversation, what's three things you want them to leave with?
Congratulations for your bravery in homeschooling your child would be number one. You recognized your children's needs and you're doing something about it. Number two, follow their bliss. And number three, the road to success is made out of stepping stones of mistake.
Mm.
You're not there yet, but you will be.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. I'm gonna leave that right where it's at. Thank you. Thank you.
You're
And you
welcome.
know, the only thing I want to leave everyone with is homeschool your kids.